Hello, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, depending where you are attending today. On behalf of the Antarctica InSync coordination team, I would like to warmly welcome to today's webinar on Antarctica InSync implementation and standard operating procedures. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today. It is a pleasure to see participants from many countries and institutions, reflecting the truly international nature of Antarctica InSync community. The goal of today's webinar is to provide an update on the implementation of Antarctica InSync, introduce the different teams and working groups, and discuss standards operating procedures that will help us harmonize methods and strengthen collaboration across our community. The webinar will consist of short presentations from each team, followed by a little presentation of different really interesting initiatives and international opportunities in the frame of Antarctica InSync. We hope this session will not only provide useful information, but also foster new collaboration and strengthen existing ones as we work together towards a more coordinated Antarctic observing system. Thank you again for being here. And with that, I would like to hand over to Steffi Hahn, who will present an introduction about the webinar.
Thank you, Diego. Welcome also from my side. On the next slide, you can just also briefly, once again, the schedule that Diego just mentioned. Exactly. So we will now run, after a brief introduction of Alex and myself, we will run through the different themes. And we'll give afterwards really a glimpse into existing expedition and initiatives, as you already mentioned, before we then kind of conclude with a brief overview of next steps and also conferences and meetings coming up that are also related to Antarctica InSync. And with that, on the next slide now, let's jump directly into the introductory part that Alex and me will host here for the next couple of minutes in order to give a brief outline of what we envision for the setup of the implementation plan. Before we do that, we just want to look back what was our major achievement of 2025 and now in particular the past weeks, and this is the science plan. Before going here into details, we want to really express our huge thank you to all of you once again that we have really achieved this big milestone within Antarctica InSync in having now something in our hands that we can really call science plan. And it's great. It's really nice to see how all things came together. And the science plan is finished actually, and it's with SCAR in these days. And we are just waiting every day actually for the final publication on the website. And once this is done, you will see that each chapter that you wrote for each theme will have an own DOI, so will be published separately. And then there will be the whole science plan as one, as the compilation of all different theme contributions, which will also get an own DOI and as an own publication. So just to make sure that to give you just an understanding of how this whole procedure worked and how it's done. But once again, it's a really nice thing how it came together. That we have now all these theme overview, we have the policy implementation, and we have also overall introduction of Antarctica InSync and how it all evolved over the past years. And this is all what is compiled in here, and it's really great to see. And with that, this was our huge achievement in 2025 running into 2026. And now 2026 is really the year of the implementation plan and really now to bring the science plan basically to life. And this is what also this webinar should be about. And with that, on the next slide, you see what Alex and me came up over the last weeks of thinking how we envision the implementation plan look like. And what we came up with is that we think that a good structure would be that we will that we will split or put together the implementation plan based on 3 major pillars. The first pillar is about the standard operating procedures for all key variables. The second one is about the expedition catalog, and the third one is about data and publication policies. And this is what we want to now briefly introduce to you. So for that one, first of all, the SOPs for the key variables on the next slide. Yes, and this is like really meant as like the standard operating procedures are or is hopefully a concept that is well known throughout the scientific community. And these SOPs are meant to be, in the end, the scientific basis of the implementation plan. For all of that, we do know that there are quite some comparable documents and thoughts already around. And this is what we exactly want to build on. That means we know there are, for example, the essential climate variables, like in general, like essential variables for climate, ocean, biodiversity, and ecosystem services, and all like related frameworks. And all of that should, in the end, provide the basis of the SOPs and of the scientific part of the implementation plan. Based on all of that, what is already around, what is our idea, or what was our idea, is to develop a common template for these SOP outline for our Antarctica InSync implementation plan, in order to then have across all themes a common idea of like how this should look like. And these common templates should include sections, for example, as variable descriptions, unit measurement principle, uncertainties, limitations, and so on and so forth. Those are currently ideas like floating around. And we would now ask over the next weeks and months until beginning of October, we would like to ask all theme leads actually to discuss these like topics that should be covered within the implementation plan, to discuss that within your themes, what you think, which are these important like topics or subheadings within these SOPs. Give that feedback to us, and then based on all the feedback from all the different theme leads, we will then compile an actual really common template for InSync based on all of that. And it's then the idea, once we have that template, that then again, based on all these different essential climate variables and all of these different SOPs that are already around, to then just like fill these templates based on that, so that we have in the end, just like for InSync, one common like document following the similar structure over all different themes. And this is then basically the idea, what should also happen within the Frascati meeting in November. We will talk about that at the very end of the next of this meeting here again, where we really want to bring together then all these different or like where we want to basically like bring the template to life. And bring there all the different key variables into that template format, in order to then form based on that these SOPs for the implementation plan. And the idea and our target for that part of the implementation plan is that we have this section completed by the end of 2026. And yes, this is really ambitious, but there are already expeditions starting beginning of 2027 that are already within the frame of Antarctica InSync, which is why we would really like to aim here for this really tight schedule. And with that, I hand over to Alex for the expedition catalog.
Thanks very much, Steffi. So Colleen, if you could go to the expedition catalog, please. So that would be the second part of the envisioned implementation plan. And we are very happy to receive feedback on any of these components. If you think that we should discuss certain elements of this and do it differently, we can discuss this certainly. So the idea here would be to have a catalog of all the planned expedition and campaigns. That is a compilation that will be partly in the implementation plan in a PDF collected, but also online on the website, and also implemented through Polar Decks and Due South, which we will hear more about later in this webinar. The idea is really to establish a tight connection between the themes and the science that's being done within InSync and the infrastructure that's available, and really do a matchmaking here through this catalog. The templates for this, they already exist. They have been also circulated to some of the national infrastructure contacts that we have, but also they are available at any time. So if you feel that you have information you want to share with the community, please feel free to put this information into this template and submit it to the Antarctica InSync Coordination Office, to Diego and Colleen, to implement this. The target here would be also to have a first version ready by the end of 2026, but then it stays open and can be extended throughout the observational period of Antarctica InSync, because we understand that a lot of the infrastructure, a lot of the expeditions and commitments might be still in the planning phase, especially the later ones. So we envision this to be an open document. Then the third part, Colleen, if you can switch one more, would be on a common data management plan and data policy that is currently being developed as part of the cross-cutting theme on data management. And they're also currently actually developing another white paper with some of the visions for where the community is heading with data sharing. So that is something that will become also available later this year. So if you have any input there, please also reach out to the data cross-cutting theme group and get engaged with them on developing these ideas. We will discuss this plan and the policy also in the Frascati meeting in detail, so that it's being agreed upon within the community. We will also share this online through online availabilities, as we always do, for anyone that cannot join the meeting, and then agree on a common strategy here. And all data collected under the umbrella of Antarctica InSync shall then follow this data plan and policy. We also highly recommend, and that will be also part of this paper that's being written, including data stewards and data stewardship from the very beginning. So if you're planning campaigns and expeditions, please make sure that you can also integrate discussions on data management and data sharing, and plan with that from the beginning. Also here, we have the plan to have a first version ready by the end of this year, and then it can also be extended upon if needed. Then if we go to the next slide, please. I think that was our part of the introduction, and then I think we go now over to hear updates from each of the different themes. Then I give back to Diego.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Steffi, for the introduction. Something that I forget to mention at the beginning is that we repeat this session tomorrow as well. And after that, we will put in our webpage all the slides. And as well, we are recording this webinar. So that will be as well published in our YouTube channel, hopefully by the beginning of next week. So with that information, I will...
Diego, maybe you can also just like briefly mention the pedal.
The pedal, of course. Sorry. Okay, and we will put in the chat now the pedal. That's an app where you can put questions about the different presentations that we're going to have today. So they will be appear now the link in the chat, and you are welcome to make your questions there, please. With that, I would like to invite our first speaker today. She is Lea Olivier, and she will present the updates and the plans for Team 1.
Thank you very much, Diego. And good morning or good afternoon, everyone. It's really nice to present a little bit the updates that has been happening in Theme 1. So Theme 1 is the theme that surrounds the Southern Ocean physical and biogeochemical cycles in a changing climate. And I'm presenting today on behalf of the coordinating team, which is me, Juan Hofer, Jean-Baptiste Salé, Elisabeth Roste, Sebastian Swart, and Elisa Carli, and Juan will present tomorrow. So here I just wanted to give a little update of what has been done over theme 1 and mainly through the working groups. But before starting with that, I wanted to give a little reminder, so that is on the next slide, of the different variables, even the next slide, that we have identified that are of interest within theme 1. So this is a result of the white paper and of the white paper writing. And so there is overlap, of course, with other themes, but these are the variables that we'll try to come up with the SOPs in the coming months. So it goes from basic oceanographic parameters like salinity, temperature, pressure, and velocities, sea fluxes of heat, fresh water, and momentum. Sea ice, I think this will be also taken over by theme 2, but it is of interest for theme 1. And then there is a big part that is about marine chemistry, so oxygen, isotopes, the inorganic chemistry, nutrients, sea fluxes of climate-relevant gases, so CO2, methane, N2O, and also more biological variables that are important for biogeochemistry. So chlorophyll, POC and DOC, so particulate organic carbon and dissolved organic carbon, color dissolved organic matter, process rates. So there are a lot of these variables. Some of them have overlaps with other themes, so this will ask for some coordination, but each of the working group focus a little bit on tackling the SOPs for each variable. And so now on the next few slides, I'm going to present a little updates of the working groups because it is where the work is actually happening. And I also wanted to give an overview for the people that feel like if they want to join a working group, they can. There have been a lot of things happening with working groups that are attached to theme 1. It doesn't mean that they're only in theme 1, but some of them are newly created, some of them are more advanced. And so we wanted to give a little update. So on the next slides, you can see the 2 first working groups. So one of them is on the carbon cycle. It's led by Elisabeth Roste and myself, so feel free to contact us. We have made quite some progress and we decided to write a white paper that we have started to complement a little bit the science plan, but with a bigger focus on carbon since it's also a cross-cutting theme working group. And we plan to have a draft for about September. And regarding the SOPs, we have also starting the process of collecting the different SOPs that exist for the variables of carbonate chemistry that I have listed before, and to try also to coordinate with the wider networks of the carbon community. So this is a little bit the update on that group. Feel free to contact, and that will be the same for all of the groups. So that's why I put the contacts at the beginning, so that when you get the slides, if you want to reach out to someone, you can. And I will not go into too much detail for all of the groups, but the microbes and micronutrients, they have also made quite some progress. They decided to prepare a review paper with the first draft in July. And regarding the SOPs, they have already identified subgroups to start drafting the protocols regarding those variables. And they will have the first draft ready by the 30th of June and then reviewed by their own community until September. So they have made quite some progress. And then we have more working groups. There are quite a lot that are within theme 1. So on the next slide, you can see. Oh, sorry, I didn't notice that some of the text moved, but a newly formed working group that is on Southern Ocean methane research. So they have just submitted their application, but feel free to contact them and to join them. They will also have a workshop at SCAR. If some of you are going there, you can also reach out to Roger or Catherine. And regarding SOPs, they would like SOPs both on methane variable, but also on other variables that are maybe more bathymetry related to try to understand better the different vents that they could identify in the Southern Ocean. And so it comes back to this link of doing SOPs, but cross-cutting themes with also people working in different areas. Another group that provided a lot of update and a lot of progress is the working group on improving Southern Ocean surface salinity knowledge through satellite in situ synergy that is led by Giuseppe and Antonino. And so there are 2 more meetings that they're planning to have before Frascati, so you can contact them if you want to join. And they have made quite some progress on satellite products from the Southern Ocean. And on the SOPs, they are trying to focus on harmonizing the thermosalinograph data, and the way it is calibrated and QC'd, so that it can also be better integrated and compared to satellite data to further improve satellites products around Antarctica that we know are quite tricky to validate. And so then on the next slide, I will go quite rapidly through other working groups that are partly attached to theme 1, not necessarily only theme 1s, but so that you can contact the people if you are interested. There is one on Antarctic coastal hotspots of atmosphere ice-ocean interaction, so more polynia oriented. There is one that maybe Juan will present a bit better tomorrow that is about coastal connection and hydrographic drivers of Antarctic biogeochemistry and carbon cycling. So these working groups are established. You can also find them on the Antarctica InSync website, and some others are more information. So there is one about ArgoFloat that is in discussion. So if you would like an ArgoFloat working group to be created, feel free to reach out to JB or to Laura. And then on the next slides, you can also see other working groups that are being created or in discussion. So a working group is being created on modern day stable water isotopes. So they had a kickoff meeting at the beginning of the month. They will also meet at SCAR if you're going there. And so they're at the beginning of the discussion. So if you're interested, feel free to contact the people. Another one that could be interesting, it's in discussion, so it's also looking for momentum. If other people are interested, would be a working group that is centered on the gyres of the Southern Ocean to discuss and work on the pathways of heat from the slope current into the gyre and into the mixed layer, on the role of eddies and the effect of stratification. So feel free to contact Torge if you're interested, and then maybe a working group on that could be created. And then the last one, I don't know what was the outcome of the meeting, but it's a potential working group on drifting buoys that Steffi might be leading. If there is an interest. So I think you can contact Steffi if you would like to join or if you have more questions. And I think I am over my 7 minutes, so I will conclude with the next slide, and maybe the second slide, just to say that these SOPs, so if you can go to the even next, they need coordination. Well, apparently it didn't finish, but it needs coordination among the different working groups. So we'll try to have these SOPs ready for November for the FOSCAT meeting, and we encourage the different working groups and the different teams to work together to achieve this list of SOPs. So yes, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to see the updates from the other teams.
Thank you really much, Leah, for that nice update of Team 1. Continue with the presentations. I invite Rusle Dadic to present the updates of Team 2.
Hi, thank you very much. So I'll be presenting the updates from Team 2, Rapid Sea Ice Decline and its Causes and Consequences, on behalf of the coordination team, as well as of the entire Team 2 working group. And we structure this in, first talk about the ongoing and planned projects that are specifically for Antarctica InSync. Then about the working groups, the SOPs and the key variables, the key variables that were already defined in the white paper. And in the end, we'll quickly talk about the planned sea ice related expeditions. Oh, next slide, please. So the ongoing projects, there are the international working groups, the BEPSI and the aspect looking at in collaboration with Antarctic sea ice processes and climates, and then the BEPSI one that's mainly biogeochemical exchange processes and sea ice interface at sea ice interfaces. And they're upcoming running Antarctic, these two specific projects. One is the EU project Synchrony, with the key objectives of establishing a coordinated observatory in the Southern Ocean. It's essentially absolutely totally made for Antarctica InSync. And the second one is linked New Zealand and US joint pilot project for Theme 2, that's led by Inga Smith in New Zealand and Ted Maxim in the US. And the fieldwork is starting in November 26th, so at the end of this year. Next slide, please. There are different working groups, or one being established that's led by Theme 2, that's OASIS, Observing System Design with AI for CI Surveillance. and one that has contribution from theme 2 on the Antarctic hotspots. There are some that are planned in progress on ice-tethered platforms with the first kickoff meeting that was last week. That was also mentioned before. And then for the Antarctic Fast Ice Network, the proposal draft of which is almost ready for submission. And under discussion is the Earth Observation Working Group on sea ice. Next slide, please. And then what we're going to talk about, we thought about key variables that are identified in the science plan. This is this table is from the white paper, and as some of you might have noticed, we identify. So these are the 4 research questions from the white papers, and then the other research themes, and the bolded variables are the ones, so the bolded variables in the research questions 1, 2, and 4 are actually the ones that are defined by WMO GCOS as essential climate variables. All the other ones are what we thought essential, but they're not identified by GCOS as essential climate variables. The ones for the ecosystem and biogeochemical processes, I think they're also defined, I actually forget where, as essential. But in the SOPs, we will first concentrate on the ones that are here in bold, because those are relatively easy-ish for many people to measure. The other ones are, we think them essential, but they might be a bit harder to collect. So the ones that are bolded here will be the ones that we concentrate for the SOPs. Next slide, please. And the status of these SOPs. So there are some existing SOPs and best practices in the sea ice contest, like for example, from the Mosaic expedition, the Weddell Sea Ice Observatory of Biodiversity and Ecosystem Change. There are operating procedures from the South African Polar Research Institute and the collections, various collections within the Aspect group. Some of those you might know, like the Aspect Sea Ice cards for observers, including non-experts, the Aspect Underway observing system and data acquisition system, as well as the Aspect Sea Ice and Snow Transit methods and recording systems. Upcoming, the WMO has in review best practices for sea ice, which have just been reviewed, and we will be able to use those as a basis for the SOPs, especially also in the Frascati meeting, because people have gone through a lot of trouble to do those, and they're quite complete in terms of sea ice measurements. The aims until the Frascati workshop is to get a full overview of the actual existing SOPs, and then to base on the examples that we have in the theme 2 larger group to agree on a template structure. And then we can start filling these templates with existing SOP nodes that we also have. So those bold variables that we talked about before, hoping that after the Frascati workshop, this will all be more or less completed with just minor edits. And next slide, please. And then at the end, these are the planned ice-related expeditions and activities. Maybe you see which ships, I'm not going to read these down because you can see this later, but essentially they are the different icebreakers that will go to different regions in Antarctica, which is really, really exciting. But there are also fast ice work opportunities from different land stations. And I think there will be more. This is also going to go into the compilation that Steffi and Alex are preparing. And I think that's it from our side. Thank you.
Thank you really much, Rochelle, for your presentation. Now I invite Alexandra Zur. She will present the plans of Team 3.
Yeah, good morning also from my side. I'm presenting today Team 3 on behalf of Gael, Anna, and Henrik, who couldn't make it today, but they will present tomorrow. On the next slide, yeah. I'm also presenting some updates, what we've been doing so far. In January, we presented the theme mainly as a draft science plan contribution, centered on the processes driving rapid changes in Antarctica. Since then, the paper has been revised following the community feedback, and the main structure remained centered on coupled processes at the ice-ocean, ice-atmosphere, and ice-bed interface, but the emphasis is now shifting towards the implementation. Hence, I will not repeat the full presentation that we had in January. You can find the slides and the presentations online. Instead, I will briefly recall our priorities, then focus on the working groups, as my previous speakers also did, and then telling you the emerging SOP needs and the planned activities that help us then translate the science priorities into coordinated observations. In the next slide, you can see that our theme focuses on the processes driving rapid change in Antarctic ice sheets and ice shelves. The key point is that these changes are not controlled by one component alone, but they result from coupled processes acting across several interfaces. And these interfaces are the ocean on the one hand side, which delivers heat to ice shelf cavities and grounding zones, the atmosphere that controls snowfall, surface melt, firn evolution, and surface mass balance, and the bed and the solid earth that influence basal conditions, the grounding line stability, and the ice flow. In our white paper, we structured this around 4 main knowledge gaps. These are ice dynamics and structural integrity, ice-ocean interactions, atmospheric forcing and surface processes, and basal conditions, grounding zones, and the solid earth controls. In this update today, I will keep the scientific framing brief. The important message here is that our theme is not only about observing ice sheet change, but also about identifying the key processes and the variables that explain why change is happening, where it is most rapidly changing, and how it can be better represented in models and projections. On the next slide, I will present the key variables. By addressing the knowledge gaps, we require integrated multi-platform observations across ice, ocean, atmosphere, and bed. In situ measurements remain essential to constrain the key processes, but they must be complemented by airborne and satellite observations to ensure that we have a large spatial coverage. Observations must be sustained and coordinated to capture variability and to reduce uncertainty in models and projections. To translate the knowledge gaps into actionable observing strategies, our white paper defines key variables, as you can see them here on the slide. And these key variables span ice, ocean, atmosphere, and bed, our main components, and they target the key interfaces highlighted earlier. And priorities are given to the variables that directly constrain processes, so not only the system state, but the processes that can be observed synchronously across different domains. Our intent is that the key variables guide the design of the measurement strategies and the sites and link between observations and models. For this, the main work also happens in the working groups that you can see on the next slide. Yeah, the slide shows how the theme 3 science priorities are translated in the working groups. The blue boxes are the core working groups. You can see here the ice-shelf-ocean interactions. They address the ice-ocean interface, including ocean heat delivery, cavity circulation, and basal melt. Then we have surface mass balance, addressing the ice-atmosphere interface, including snowfall, melt, firn, and accumulation processes. And then as a third one, the subglacial environments, that addresses the ice bed and grounding zone interface, including basal conditions, hydrology, and bed properties. You can also see 2 more groups. They are kind of cross-theme links. One is the coastal hotspots that is already endorsed and is relevant to our theme because coastal regions are the key places where the atmosphere, the ocean, the sea ice, and the ice shelf processes interact with each other. And the final box in red here, extreme event impacts on the cryosphere, is shown with a dashed outline because it is still a pending working group proposal, so it's not yet endorsed. but it would be highly relevant as a cross-theme activity, especially for linking our theme with sea ice and climate variability through atmospheric and marine extreme events. The main point here is that we have now a clear implementation structure, the 3 core interface focus working groups, plus the cross-theme links that capture coastal coupling and extreme events. And at the same time, the structure should remain open. Other working groups or focus activities may come up as the community prioritizes become clearer and as the coordination needs develop. We also warmly welcome everyone to contribute or just to contact the working group leads. You can find all endorsed working groups on the Antarctica InSync homepage, and every working group is very happy about new people joining the groups or just contributing. Beyond these working groups, they are shown here. Our team also connects to the broader Antarctica InSync cross-cutting activities. In particular, the Earth observation cross-cutting theme is very relevant for us because satellite observations provide the Antarctic scale context that is needed to link local processes and field campaigns to model evaluation. So now how we go from the working groups to the observations is shown on the next slide. Here I show how our theme moves from the scientific priorities to the practical implementation. This working group identified key processes and variables across the ice-ocean, ice-atmosphere, and ice-bed interfaces. And as a next step, we want to translate these priorities into shared measurement and reporting protocols, meaning how observations are made, documented, quality controlled, and shared. After the entire theme updates, there will also be presentations on the national campaigns and expeditions. That's why I'm not touching on them here now. Just as an example for ice-ocean studies, this means that we have coordinated observations of ocean forcing, cavity circulation, and basal melt. For the surface mass balance and atmospheric processes, it means that we have comparable measurements of snowfall, melt, film processes, and surface energy balance. So this means that the working groups, the shared protocols, and the campaigns are forming one implementation chain, ideally leading to interoperable datasets, synthesis, and improved modeling. And that brings me to the next slide, the next steps, and I'm also concluding with this slide. Our theme has moved from the science framing towards implementation. Our white paper has been revised by the community feedback and is now providing references for a framework for the coordination. Our scientific focus remains centered on the coupled processes at the ice-ocean, ice-atmosphere, and ice-bed interfaces. As a next step, we want to translate this framework into practice by linking key variables to the working groups, identifying shared measurement and reporting protocols, and ensuring that the observations from the different teams, platforms, and region are comparable and model ready. And I think with this, because I'm already over time, I thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward to the next theme updates.
Thank you really much, Alexandra, for the talk. Continue with our agenda. I invite Friederike Weid and Conor Bamford, who will present the updates of Team 5.
Hi everyone, good morning. Thank you. So I'm just going to quickly go over a very top-down overview of the progress of the working groups in Theme 4. Feel free to photograph the slides, as some of them are quite dense, or check in with the recording later on, just so that I can keep to time. Next slide, please. So within this theme, we have 7 working groups that are approved at the moment, and we're aware of 2 more that are under development. And this presentation will just go over very quickly 3 of the core working themes that are approved so far. Next slide, please. So the first working group is EcoScent. This working group has an effort focused primarily on higher predators as ecosystem sentinels. And the goal is to create an energyscape that can support ecosystem monitoring, climate change vulnerability assessments, and crewel fishery management. Full SOPs are currently under development, but will likely include aspects of morphometric and diet protocols, protocols around tracking data and its processing, and then coordination and harmonization of data availability. Next slide, please. During the field work for this working group, There'll be a focus on collecting tracking data alongside oceanographic tracking data, morphometric data of the species that are tagged, and behavioral observations. The fieldwork for this working group is circumpolar, but for some species, particularly some of the penguins, there are the efforts are a lot more geographically constrained. Next slide, please. Thank you. This slide is probably one where you may want to take a photo of. This kind of summarizes the proposed fieldwork activities and people responsible for those fieldwork activities and what data they're aiming to collect on what species and where it is, and with an indication of the prep time for these efforts. Next slide, please. Thank you. Moving on to the second working group, which is PREDICT. The overall focus of this working group is to investigate the krill fishery and ecosystems interactions in CAMLR area 48.1, so primarily around the Antarctic Peninsula, addressing two main research questions to look at the spatial temporal overlap and functional responses, and then the behavioral interactions between the species and the fisheries. SOPs for this are currently under development and will be geared around coordinating multiple platform efforts, different approaches for different predator species, integrating the predator and prey data that are collected on the cruises, how the acoustic methods are standardized between different ships, and then a little bit about how the data are all synthesized and modeled in a coherent way. This working group is tied in quite strongly with the previous one. Next slide, please. And again, this is a very quick summary slide of the proposed fieldwork areas and different species that are going to be targeted by the PREDICT fieldwork. Thank you, and hopefully I've left Fritzi enough time to talk about the rest.
Hello, I will continue with the remaining working group. So there's this working group, SOBETS, which is focused on circumpolar monitoring of the Southern Ocean benthic biodiversity, ecosystem dynamics, and services across coastal shelf, slope, and deep sea habitats. So it's comparing different habitats in their response to climate change. And the three thematic pillars of facing in this integrated approach is the biodiversity on the different levels, ecosystem processes, and the environmental context. And we were working on different SOPs and core parameters on a list, which could be carried out in different habitats and different campaigns on land and shallow areas, but also on the ship, so it could be comparable. And there will be a workshop actually from two members of this working group at the SCAR Open Science Conference, on essential biodiversity variables of the Antarctic seafloor fauna. And the next slide, please. And here is an overview of the core parameters and the field efforts. There's, for now, one campaign planned. It's called POVI, which will be covered or will go to Antarctica in 2 years. It's a land-based campaign, which looks at the benthic ecosystem and the response to climate change and glacier melt in shallower regions. And we're looking forward to have this setup also spread out for other regions around the world, for example. And next slide, please. And then there's this deep benthing working group, which is under review. And this one, focus on the deep sea, benthic biodiversity, habitat mapping, and the different, biodiversity aspects and of the deep sea on different fauna components. And the next slide, please. And there's also the second working group, which is not endorsed yet, or which will be out soon on the webpage. It's on eDNA and omics. So they're aiming to sampling around the whole continent, covering different regions, surface to deep sea, coastal to the ocean. And there is a workshop planned this year to develop the SOPs. And yeah, there in 2027, sorry, there's like sampling and testing conducted on board to develop and will be developed. And there, yeah, and on the next slide, please. Yeah, we have the overview of the coordination team for this working group, and we have also more working groups within theme 4. Unfortunately, we haven't heard back from everyone, but regarding the SOPs, we will reach out with them again and collect the information. And yeah, it's from the side from theme 4.
Thank you really much, Fritzi and Connor, for the updates of Team 4. Sorry. Continue with the talks. I invite to present the updates of Team 5, Susan Bengtor-Nash.
Good evening or good morning, everyone. I'll be presenting an overview of Theme 5 on behalf of the leadership group. We're an incredibly diverse group, so we're taking the approach which is a little bit different to the other presentations today. We've canvassed the community to send to us their updates of advocate voyages or activities. So we're still very much in the storming phase, moving towards the forming and norming, but not quite at the stage of SOPs. So if we move to the next slide, you can see we're an incredibly diverse group here in this thing. We've got chemical and plastic pollution, underwater noise, assessment and management of the effects of the krill fishery, effects of marine pollution specifically on the phytoplankton, and climate feedbacks. We have tracing Antarctic expedition legacies, invasive species, and monitoring tourism. So necessarily we're a big wheel to turn. Next slide, please. So I'll start off with a pan-Antarctic vision that has been put forward by German colleagues based on work already being undertaken. So they've initiated coordinated monitoring based at research stations, onboard icebreakers and tourist ships. And this program covers sampling in various environmental compartments, including air, water, sediment, snow, ice and biota. And there'll be a number of sampling voyages that have already taken place, and operational protocols will be developed and transferred into the 2028-29 campaigns. Next slide, please. The Cape InSync initiative also stems from the Poland project, also coming out of the Herion Institute. And if we go to the next slide, it's based on collection of penguin eggs for chemical analysis, and the proposal is for circumpolar monitoring, international collaboration. Standardized sampling is already underway and being developed, and the analytical procedures will depend on the chemicals being targeted, the SOPs coming out of there, and there'll be a shared joint data policy, which is also the goal of the Poland project that this Cape InSync project has come out of. Next slide, please. Also in line with chemical monitoring, Australia's contribution to Antarctica InSync will largely be focused at the East Antarctic Modular Ice Zone voyage that is also contributing to other themes. The intention here is to look at biogeochemical cycling of chemicals in the marginal ice zone. Next slide, please. In addition to that, Australia is contributing ship time on the Nuyina, where annual sampling for PFAS compounds is undertaken annually, starting in the previous year and going through the Antarctic InSync period as well. Similarly, Arcabai Marine Vessel will be incorporated for similar sampling between Uruguay and the peninsula. Next slide, please. So then we move into the underwater noise pollution, where the vision is a circumantarctic evaluation of soundscapes, using Antarctica as a sort of last pristine marine soundscape. And the theme aims to deliver noise indicators as well as trends in underwater noise and a pan-Antarctic monitoring concept. Next slide, please. And finally, we move into the Melissa Explorer expedition, which took place in 2025. So it was a feasibility study. The samples have already been collected, but analysis will be contributed as part of Antarctica InSync. And next slide, please. And that concludes the submitted activities, and we welcome collaboration from the community. Thank you.
Thank you really much, Susan, for the update of Team 5. Our next speaker is Jessie Creeman, who will present the plan for Team 6.
All right, thanks, Diego. So I'm gonna update you all on Theme 6 on behalf of our leadership team. So that's myself and Marcus Spray and Yulia Schmala. Next slide, please. So this is from our white paper. It's a schematic representing all of the different systems that we're hopefully covering in our theme. And so it's very coupled system, as you can see. This is basically summarizing our objectives and what we want to observe. So the black words, aerosols, clouds, precipitation, radiation, those are the elements that we want to be addressed within our theme on the different platforms that are all in purple. So it really requires a lot of coordination between a lot of different platforms. You can see it includes vessels and aircraft and satellite and drones and research stations. So all of this together really is what we need to observe these interactions between the atmosphere, ocean, and ice climate system to be able to look at aerosols and clouds and radiation in the boundary layer. And so we want to look at all this stuff because we want to be able to get better understanding and constraints of the endpoints. So those are shown in orange here. So we want to be able to understand sea ice retreat better and the surface mass balance of the ice, and then also the surface energy balance. Next slide, please. And so some of we have our 5 main knowledge gaps and associated with our theme, and that's quantifying aerosol sources, properties, and processes, characterizing cloud and precipitation properties, understanding the surface energy budget and boundary layer structure, constraining cloud circulation coupling, and advancing the modeling of clouds and aerosols in the Southern Ocean Antarctic continent region. Next slide, please. And so to address these key gaps, it requires quite a bit, as you could see from the schematic on the first slide. So we really need these synchronized year-round observations to capture the temporal and spatial variability of key processes. We want to be able to continue observations of long-term trends that have been existing at stations already, and then to build on and enhance ongoing multinational scientific logistical efforts. and to share capabilities across different platforms to share data, samples, satellite retrievals, and model products. Next slide, please. And so we have three main priorities. As a subserving strategy targets reduction in climate forecast uncertainties. So our main priority is to maintain year-round observations at all locations and platforms within the Pan-Antarctic network. The second priority is to have advanced intensive observational periods that would include vertical profiling in the atmosphere from the surface up into the boundary layer, into the clouds and above. And then our third priority is to have dedicated super sites during expeditions, different smaller research voyages, and then also flights with traditional crewed aircraft, and then also drones. Next slide, please. Okay, so I know I don't expect everyone to read every word on this table, but this is just from our white paper, summarizing the essential variables that will eventually hopefully write these SOPs for. So some of the key ones you can see are aerosols, gases. We want to be able to constrain blowing snow a bit better. Biology, believe it or not, there's a lot of biology that happens in the atmosphere, so we'll have to link up with other themes for that. And then here, you can go to our white paper. It describes some of the priorities and the different types of measurement details that we need for all of these different things and which knowledge gaps they address. Next slide, please. This is a continuation of that table. So also, centralizing observations and priorities around the clouds, the precipitation, the meteorology that's happening in the lower troposphere, and then the troposphere as well, and then the radiation measurements. Next slide, please. And so we have a number of funded and planned projects within our theme. And so some of them that are funded are including one called Snow Troll, and that's a joint Norwegian, American, British project at Troll Station based up from the UK. We have the Troll Observing Network, or TUNI, Integrated Clouds Observatory, also at Troll Station, and that's a Norwegian project. We have Domino, which is a multi-station project focusing on air, snow, ice, ocean interactions. We have Precedent, which is a aerosol and cloud project based out of Rothera Station. And then we have a number of submitted proposals. So one of them is at Palmer Station in the US. So that one's mine, actually, looking at aerosols and clouds from that station. And then we have the Amundsen project based out of France. So that's a modeling focused project looking at boundary layer clouds. Next slide, please. And continuing on those, we have AtSync. So that's the sources, sinks, and exchange pathways of climate relevant particles coming out of Germany. CoCaps is also out of Germany, measuring clouds, aerosols, and precipitation on Polarstern. And then Acaroa is clouds, aerosols, and radiation measurements on the RV sauna, also from Germany. And so planned projects, we have a couple here looking at the surface energy budget, hoping to make those measurements on Polarstern, and then Southern Ocean and Antarctic sources of cloud-forming aerosol and the links to sea ice and biology. So that will hopefully be a project coming out of the UK with measurements on the Sir David Attenborough and at Halley Station. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is kind of summarizing spatially where we plan to be in our theme. So the different vessels are shown there in yellow, generally in the Bellinghouse and Weddell Seas. And then the red dots are showing so far where we have measurements that are focused out of our theme. We hope to expand, obviously. And if you have any measurements that would be relevant to our theme, please do let us know, because we are trying to compile that information as right now is on our theme. Next slide, please. We have a few working groups that fall within our theme. And so one being Antarctic coastal hotspots of atmosphere-ice ocean interaction. A second being using atmospheric parameters derived from satellite remote sensing retrievals, which is proposed. And then we're part of the cross-cutting theme, Earth observation, Earth system, and modeling. Next slide, please. Unless that is it. Sorry, last slide, this was one. So we have some upcoming events. Of course, there's, we're gonna have a Theme 6 informal meeting at the SCAR Open Science Conference in August. So that'll be announced soon. We'll have our quarterly meeting coming up here in September. And then of course, we'll be heavily involved in the implementation workshop in Frascati. And if you wanna stay updated with our theme, please feel free to join our mailing list. Thank you.
Thank you really much, Jessie. Apparently, there's a lot of happening in Team 6. I would like to invite our next speaker, Luis Sim, to present the updates of Team 7.
Good morning, and thank you. Yeah, you'll have to forgive my presentation of this. Matthew was hoping to present this, but I'm afraid is a victim of the trains in Paris at the moment. So Theme 7 is quite broad and got started a little later than some of the others. So I think we're probably slightly less advanced than some in terms of thinking about operating procedures. Okay, but I'll give you a quick update on what has happened so far. So Theme 7 covers variability, extremes tipping for the changing Antarctic climate. If we can go to the next slide, please. So the broad aims are to put the observations collected during Antarctic InSync into a longer-term climate perspective. So that does include things like fern cores and long-term historical records, and then to link the changes at timescales from events to multi-decade and even longer-term observations. And as I said, partly because this uses potentially a wide range of tools, I think some of the discussion in terms of Theme 7 work will probably sit more in the working groups, but we can come to that in a minute. We go to the next slide. So the principal focus of Theme 7, and this is partly to make sure that it doesn't overlap too much with Theme 6 and Theme 3, although I think some overlap is acceptable, is to think about snow, fern and surface mass balance to ensure that there's coordinated field and satellite calibration measurements to reduce uncertainty in sea level projections. And there's now several working groups which help address that. On the atmosphere and water cycle to expand weather, precipitation and water isotope observations for tracking. To think about the connection for ocean, sea ice, atmosphere coupling, so overall hydrological and ocean atmosphere processes, particularly to invest in marginal ice zone observations to understand how sea ice loss and warming amplify extremes and potentially impact Antarctica. And then to help separate variability and warming detection. We can go to the next slide, please. So our overview figure looks like this, which attempts to show how changes in the ocean impact on Antarctica and where we want to obtain new InSync measurements to think about things like extreme heat waves, extreme snowfall events, and how, as I say, that links with the whole system. So if we go to the next slide. The main identified knowledge gaps were, indeed, would pretty much tie up with the previous slide, the snow, fern and Antarctic surface mass balance. So how will, or what will be the overall Antarctic surface mass balance changes, and how will the atmospheric drivers and fern processes affect susceptibility to hydrofactor and major ice loss and so on. And effectively Theme 7 is organised under these questions under each aim. I maybe won't go through all of them. So if we go to the next slide, under the white paper, which has had lots of input from everyone, there's rather a long table of Antarctic key variables. So I think partly for that reason, I think it's not still a little unclear to theme 7 how much of thinking about standard operating procedures will come under theme 7 and perhaps how much will be under individual working groups, and some of it was also comes under other themes as well too. So if we go to the next slide, there's 11, so please do join theme 7. I think that's the point of this as well. But there's 11 working groups which are affiliated to theme 7. So having gone along to some of them, for example, I don't think it's actually on this list, but there's a new theme work group which is led by a new working group, which is led mostly by early career researchers, which will define the standard operating procedures for the water isotope measurements, which are part of theme 7. And I think that will be the same for quite a lot of the other working groups as well, too. So possibly we should have asked working groups for updates, but I'm afraid we're a little late for that now. So I think that was all I wanted to say. So basically theme 7 is rather broad. There's a lot going on. So far I would say more of it is in working groups. So please do both join the working groups. I think there's now 17 or so on the, maybe it's more now. It's around about 17. And partly because theme 7 is so broad, most of them are affiliated with theme 7 so far. Okay. I think, is that the last slide? Can we check? Yes, that was the last slide. So thanks for your attention. Here, the main organisers are Matthew, Irina, myself and Martin. So please do contact us if you've got any theme 7 updates, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you really much, Louise, for your talk. Continuing with the agenda, I invite Martin Waring to present the last updates about Earth observations.
Thank you, Diego. Oh, hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. Hello. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to present a brief update from the Earth Observation Cross-Cutting Group. I think it's fair to say that things have been fairly quiet on our front. I think we're waiting very much to hear about the planned campaigns to help to see how the satellite Earth observation can play a role in those campaigns. But just as a kind of to keep you updated with what's been happening, we have a few updates. So obviously we've incorporated the feedback and comments from the review of the white papers. So we're very grateful for the many people who contributed there. Our broad scale priorities remain the same, although we've had some refinements to those. So I'm going to go quickly run through a few of those. So obviously there's still room to improve satellite Earth observations for Antarctica and the Southern Ocean. We have good observations, but they could still be better. For instance, one of the comments from the feedback was the sort of areas that are hard to observe, such as the marginal ice zone. There should be an area of focus. Yeah, we're really waiting to hear all the planned activities on the fieldwork side. There's lots of potential there to help with both satellite Earth observation providing information on where to target in situ activities. I know there's lots of mentions of the concept of super sites. That's something we endorse as well. And the idea that we can maybe potentially piggyback or use some of the observations collected in campaigns to help with the calibration and validation, as well as dedicated EO campaigns as well. We have some progress on these three priorities. So looking at coordinating with space agencies and commercial satellite providers, with the WMO task team on cryosphere and polar observations from space kicked off recently. That's a sort of reinvigoration of the previous polar space task group. So that's really good to see. But within our group that we have contributing to our discussions, we still need to increase the international participation we're still very Europe centric. So please, if you have an interest in Earth observation, please do reach out to the group. The mailing list details are at the end of this presentation, but it would be really good to get more participation, and also across themes as well. I think theme 5 and 6, where we're sort of lacking participants from those themes. Similarly, with the modeling teams, I know there's talks and discussions going on with modeling teams. I think there's probably a need to start initial discussions early on with the Earth observation community to ensure there's a dialogue there. And then similarly with the EO, with the data management cross-cutting group, that was mentioned in the introduction. It's really good to hear, but there's obviously a whole wealth of EO data that will feed into Antarctica InSync. So it'd be really good to make sure that we align the EO data management with the much broader data management from the campaigns. In our white paper, we had a list of our EO-driven research priorities, and lots of those priorities are kind of covered within the science themes and within the working groups. But we're discussing at the moment whether there's a need for specific EO-focused working groups on specific EO elements within each of the themes. The EO cross-cutting group is very broad. We can do the coordination aspects, but I think maybe to drive forward specific research priorities from the EO perspective, we need to form working groups to make that more effective. And that's something we're discussing as a group at the moment, how best to do that. So looking forward, coming up, we've heard a little about the SCAR Open Science Conference in Oslo. There's a workshop linking Earth observation and Antarctic InSync expeditions, so particularly the Pulse of the Weddell Sea expedition. So we have a number of the EO community contributing there to sort of initiate discussions on how best to link these two aspects together. From the ESA side, so from my side personally, we are having a funding call for InSync proposals towards the end of the year, so most likely in November, and these will target EO-based projects for Antarctica InSync. It will cover all the different science themes that will be eligible, and the science priorities will be based on the content of the white papers. So it's really good to see that science plan nearing its final stages. And the common element will be that it will link EO capabilities with campaigns. So that's all for me, a quick update. I don't think our mailing list details are on the website just yet. I know Carlin and the team are working on that, but I've put the QR code there in case anyone wants to sign up right now. But yeah, I'll hand back to the team online. Stop sharing.
Thank you really much, Martin, for that nice update. Our last talk of this first part of the webinar will be Daria Pau, who will present the initiative and plans of our new and recent partner, APEX.
Yeah, thank you, Diego. I'm very happy to present today on behalf of the Antarctica InSync Early Career Coordination Group, which is a group that has newly formed over the past months and is currently in the process of becoming an official group under Antarctica InSync. And the main goal is really to strengthen the early career participation within Antarctica InSync. Next slide, please. And we want to pursue that, with a few different steps, and we want to do it on different levels. So one thing really is to strengthen the early career leadership. So on a structure level, that early career scientists are included in the different levels of the government and decision making within InSync, but also strengthen the participation really within the different activities, for example, within the working groups or the themes. Another step is to build really an early career community under InSync through, for example, networking events, but also supporting collaboration between ECRs and with ECRs. And really the idea is to create an inclusive and interdisciplinary community where people from all different backgrounds and regions are able to participate. And because InSync is such a great opportunity also for early career scientists, we would like to support the long-term professional growth and capacity building, but that really then needs mentorship, for example, knowledge transfer, and also leadership development. Next slide, please. And this, how can this look like in practice, and how can you, no matter on what level you are involved in InSync, support this? So if you are an early career scientist that is interested in Antarctica InSync or just wants to become involved, join us, the early career coordination group, but also tell your peers about it, that there is this effort. That's already a big step. If you're a researcher or senior researcher in a leadership role, I think you have a lot of opportunities as well. For example, implement early career leadership in your activities. What the feedback that we often get is that early careers are interested in InSync. They want to become active, but they don't really know where to start. So feel free to approach early careers and include them in your activities. The same goes for the national committees. So include early career representatives within the national committees would be a really, really great step. A lot of countries, they have, for example, apex boards, national apex boards. Reach out to them and ask them if they want to provide representatives for the national InSync committees. But also, if you are in a theme or you're leading a working group, actively create opportunities for early career researchers to participate and contribute. That would be really, really great. Next slide, please. And to explore more of these opportunities in detail, there's 2 events coming up on the 28th and the 29th of July, where we will have 2 webinars that are online introduction events for early career scientists. And it aims specifically for people who want to become involved, but just don't know how to do so yet, or who are involved and want to connect to other scientists or early career scientists. And there we will have short presentations on what possibilities are there to become involved, but also plenty of time and space for questions and discussions. Next slide, please. So if you also want to connect more, we will be at the Scarlet Science Conference. There's 2 sessions that are particularly aimed at early career scientists. One is a community gathering organized by APEX and PSACO. And the second one is a workshop that's focused on implementing early career engagement and priorities within IPY5 and Antarctica InSync. And next slide, please. If you're curious or want to join us, if you're interested, then contact the APEX International Directorate. They'll be happy. But also, if you're just curious about our activities, like the upcoming webinar, subscribe to the InSync mailing list or the APEX mailing lists. We will share all our planned activities via those platforms. Yeah, and if you know anyone who's interested in this or may be happy to hear about this, tell them about it, share the infos, yeah, and sign up for the webinar on the Antarctica InSync webpage. Thank you, Diego. With that, I will hand back to you.
Thank you very much, Daria. Please, for all early career scientists who are today online, join the events that APEX are organizing. They look super nice, and they're going to be important information as well there. Another reminder is in the chat, we have the link for the Padlet. For please, if you have questions about the different talks that we already present, put your question there. The speakers will be answered your question directly there. So please use this opportunity for that. Now, continue with our agenda. We will start the second part of this webinar. And now we will have short presentations about the status of campaigns and plannings for Antarctica InSync. And with that, I want to invite Alexander Haumann to present the general status of the campaigns planning.
Thanks, Diego, and thank you also everyone for this first block. It's truly amazing to see how all these initiatives and activities come together, and all this momentum that's in the community of really shaping Antarctica InSync. It's really fantastic to see. So we also want to give you some more exciting updates, and these are on current activities regarding expeditions, campaigns, that are being planned for the Southern Ocean. And Colleen, if you could please go one slide further. We have currently we are collecting all the infrastructures, all the plans centrally at the Antarctica InSync Coordination Office. So if you have activities, infrastructures that are being planned, that are already committed for that time period, please submit your updates to the coordination office. There is a template with the form where you can fill this in that you can send to Diego and Colleen. We will today discuss a couple of campaigns that are being planned. It's certainly not all of them, so this would not fit within this webinar, but we will certainly share all the information on campaigns through the website, and as well as have a more detailed discussion and alignment of these infrastructures for the implementation workshop that's being planned for in November in Frascati. In the meantime, yeah, we will share this through the website, but we are also planning to develop further a platform that already exists for infrastructure planning. That's Polardex Due South, and Michaela will present something on this in a minute, how you can actually already now put in your information into that platform. Of course, we will go through several national infrastructures that include vessels, airplanes, and stations that we have currently in the planning, but also there is new partners involved. There is, for example, the Terra Foundation that has a fantastic plan they will present today. There's others like Ocean Ref, Schmidt Ocean, Malizia Explorer. There's opportunities through IATO. There's the Forel, Perseverance, and also the Wonder Globe expeditions that will contribute, and there's many more. So you will constantly be updated with these opportunities for field work throughout the year and also in the next year probably. There's also dedicated infrastructure access through Polarin. There has been already a call, and there will be an additional call later this year. As well as probably private foundations that also includes the support for ECRs later to join field expeditions. Then, of course, we have challenges because this is a huge coordination task. So we need everyone to help to submit their updates, and also we need some help with coordination and logistics in that respect. So please also, if there is something you can do to help with this, we are welcoming this. So with this, I think I will hand over to Michaela, who will present briefly on the plans and the developments within Polardex and Due South. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. So you can go on to the next slide. That's just the introduction slide to tell you that I'm about to talk about Due South, or Polardex. So Due South is hosted on polardex.org. It contains both Arctic and Antarctic logistical information for marine voyages, and it also provides information on things like vessel capabilities, field stations, traverses, aircraft, flight paths, and basically everything about heading south. So you could view the data via a map or a table, and you could also filter based off of different things like countries, regions, SUS areas, dates, and even Antarctica InSync as the source. So Due South was developed and it's being maintained by the European Polar Board, and the data within is currently being managed by me and the SUS IPO. So this is a forward-looking tool. It only contains information prior to voyages, and it's also not updated post-voyage. Those two data streams are often quite disconnected, and bringing those together proves very, very, very difficult. Next slide. So this is just an example of what a voyage looks like in Due South, so you could be familiar with it. When you click on a route in the map view, it will show you like a little details box down the side, and then you could click into that, and it provides you a lot of information about what's actually happening on that voyage. Within those voyage details, you can also click into things like the linked vessel, which provides further information on what capabilities the vessel has, like lab space, what instruments are on board, etc. So routes and voyages can be submitted by anyone for Due South. It's easy to create an account and submit this information. We rely really heavily on the community for this information, so please consider putting that information that you have about marine voyages directly into Due South to help us out. For any information on vessels or field stations, an admin is required to update these. So please reach out to me. My email will be at the end of the presentation if you've got updates for that or you find any that are missing, because we are all but a small group at SEUS. Next slide, please. So we've got some main data sources that I just want to review with everyone for how we actually get some of that data into Due South. We have an automatic link up to the tourism vessels with IATO. It's updated whenever they update their data, and it only contains the current season or upcoming season of data. So currently it's 25-26 season data is in there, and then when they update their system, it will harvest directly from there into Due South. There is a jitter on the specific locations of the tourism operators per their request, so the actual GPS locations are just shifted a bit. We then also receive PDFs from COMNAP, or the Council of Managers of National Antarctic Programs, following their annual meetings. This happens normally around August, September time. And then we have to transform these non-standardized PDFs into Due South manually. On the screen, there are just, I'm not even sure if you can read it, but there's just a few examples of the differences that we get from different countries via the COMNAP PDFs. Some of them give us some information in a nice table, and then some of them just put TBD. So it really varies what information we get from there. The third source is from the Commission of Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources, or CAMLAR. They provide their fisheries data, which is handed over after their annual meetings, normally around November for the upcoming summer season. And then our last source is actually from the community and public web pages. So SEUS will gather information from public-facing web pages, logistic platforms, or submissions from the community, and then we'll manually put this into Due South. But of course, this is a huge undertaking and actually only captures the things that we have access to, so some things may go missing. Next slide, please. So, if you would like to help, which I strongly encourage you do, you can enter your information directly into Due South. So if you have access to this logistical information, you have campaigns that you are planning, please consider making an account and submitting these routes to Due South. They'll get checked and approved by me, so you can't just put anything up there, and it's just a little bit of control over what goes onto the website. But if you need to update those routes, you can actually go in yourself and then update those, so you don't have to pass information off to us and then we need to update it. There are some help documents online. If you get stuck with anything, please email me. I'm pretty quick at responding, but I am in Australian Eastern Standard Time at the current moment, so just be aware of that. Next slide, please. Some planned functionality that we've already accomplished, and then what is coming up and what we've got on the books. Currently, we can tag routes with Antarctica InSync via the source. This is kind of a stopgap solution until the developers can come up with a nicer way to actually tag these routes. But at the moment, if you go into Due South and filter based off of the source, you can choose InSync to show only those routes. We also have improved the CSV and GeoJSON uploads. So if we have bulk information, or you have bulk information that you would like to upload, it's really quite simple and easy to put those in, which is very nice. Currently planned and upcoming, we'd like to be able to tag routes as tentative or subject to change. So it's quite clear to users that this is what we've got planned as a route and as a campaign, but it may be subject to change pending funding approvals, etc. We also would like to provide more detailed information on vessels to help researchers identify ships of opportunity for things like moorings or glider deployments. We would like to also make a separate view so we can direct people directly to InSync routes with preset filters on them. We will be employing some standard vocabularies like platform codes, science keywords, etc., to keep everything uniform and help you find things easier. And then we're also going to be increasing the amount of automatic links to get this route information. So really taking that manual burden off and getting some more automation in behind everything would be great. Next slide, please. And so this is the second to last slide before me thanking everyone. I would just like to say that we would love some feedback from everyone in the InSync community. First, on future developments to meet the community needs, specifically for InSync. So what do you want to see in the platform, or what do you think a platform should have in order to meet your needs for campaign planning? And then what information do you think is required to identify ships of opportunity? So what kind of details do you need to know about the vessels in order to identify that as a potential opportunity for you to have some deployments or collaborate with other researchers? And then the last slide is just my closing slide. And thank you all for listening, and I'll hand back over.
Thank you really much, Michaela, for that nice talk. And please, to all the participants, check please this tool, because it's going to be a key tool for us to coordinate all the different efforts, campaign, and expeditions in the next years. So continue with the agenda. I invite Dore Hatteman to present the campaigns about on board of Copenhagen.
Yes, hello everyone. I hope you can hear me. Then briefly, the slide already contains the core dates and information on our upcoming voyage. Before saying a little bit more about that, I also wanted to briefly highlight other activities that are not mentioned on this slide, that Norway is running this Tune Troll Observing Network Observatory, which has long-term observatories in the open ocean and under the ice shelf, and also around the Norwegian base with different disciplines. And atmospheric part was already mentioned, as well as annual cruises, basically along the yellow line that is on this map, going every year from Cape Town to Troll Station, where we now also are capable of conducting science. And these are key besides, or activities where we very much want to welcome collaboration within the InSync framework in the future. And also you can access Troll Station to Polar In, and we are also on this campaign that we're presenting here having a Polar In participant. So that's sort of ongoing activities over the coming years anyways. And then talking a bit about these two legs of the next Norwegian Southern Ocean research voyage. Two legs starting from Cape Town early next year, so a little bit early for the InSync core period, but that's sort of what we could manage with our logistics. This icebreaker is very busy in the Arctic usually, so getting it southbound is not always easy. So for us, this is a big success. And the first voyage then will have a focus on the coastal area in Kong Haakon, the 7th Sea area, which other people call the Eastern Weddell Sea. It's sort of the coastal area of the Eastern Weddell Gyre, I would say, around 0 meridian, or from station planners going from 4 west to 18 east, something like that. And really, really multidisciplinary cruise. We will have 30 working days in the area from a 50-day total voyage. And the 4 pillars are collecting information for knowledge on the ecosystem for Norway's efforts, and contributing with MPA research and monitoring in that area. So that will be a lot of benthic habitat mapping, and a little bit on establishing proxies for zooplankton remote sensing. And then we have a large research project funded by the Norwegian Research Council. It's called iCrime, led by Sébastien Moreau, that will study the land and sea ice interactions with the marine ecosystem, a lot on primary production, trace metal iron, and that work will basically follow the coast as close as possible and look how the ice shelves are interacting with the open ocean in that area. And paired with that, the University of Tromsø and the Excellence Center IC3 there will complement that pelagic part of iCrime with sort of more a benthic part looking for methane and also sediment chemistry, gravity coring for sort of parley perspectives. And the fourth pillar then is a more dedicated process study of ocean dynamics, physical oceanography interactions of the slope current with these ice tongues that sometimes protrude the continental shelf break. Yeah, so very multidisciplinary, nice crew. And since this cruise is coming up very quickly, a lot of plans are already fixed. So it's not so easy to jump on this ship anymore, but we have a polar end participant. And on these four pillars, on these four themes, we're very, very eager and very keen to collaborate with anybody who is interested in sort of connecting the science to this, having some wish lists, what we could incorporate in there, or other voyages where we could do comparable work. Then I guess I'm also running short on time, but there will be a second leg just after, starting then in mid-February, lasting for a bit less than a month, and that will be mainly working around this green circle, which you can't see, but there's actually a landmass in the center of the ocean. That's, I think, the island that is furthest away from any coastline on the planet. It's called Bouvet Island. It's really tiny, but it is kind of a hotspot for ecosystem primary productivity and higher trophic levels. So that will again be a multidisciplinary cruise to really look into the role of this particular island in the central Southern Ocean, but also in general processes around hydrothermal vents, seamounts, and sort of lee wave effects in the ocean of these islands, how that is impacting the marine ecosystem. That cruise is a little bit less busy at the moment, so it's actually possible probably to join that journey with a good objective. And again, we are very keen on connecting and collaborating in this realm. So yes, the contact points are not readable on the slide right now, but I hope when the slide will be shared, that will be my email address and Sebastian Moreau's email address, who will be leading the second leg. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tore, for that nice talk. Please contact him for questions. And our next speaker is Thomas Lepple, who will present the initiative InSync Plateau. And please a reminder to all the speakers that we are really tight with the schedule. So respect your time, please. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Okay, perfect. There it is. So I would like to present an initiative where we would like to make observations across the Antarctic Plateau. So this is a light traverse from coast to coast, which is co-led by AVI and the Swiss Polar Institute, with contributions from Germany, Switzerland, France, Italy, and Korea in the moment. So how does it work? I think we would take Arctic trucks. That's what you can see on the top right. So that's a light traverse platform, which allows us to go there to do the whole traverse in a single season. And while we have like 30 days of driving in a long season, we still have time to do science on the way during the daily stops, and then also during some stops where we're revisiting existing sites. So why do we do this? As Theme 7 pointed out, there are evidences for rapid changes on the ice sheet at the moment, like heat waves and accumulation changes, and we would like to put these into the centennial context, in addition also to provide a platform for other observations in this very unobserved area. So what we will do is kind of a paleoscience, very shallow one, so looking back in the last 200 years to look at temperature and climate changes. Then we have a big chunk on the question of surface mass balance and sea level. So looking at accumulation in time from ice cores, in space from radar, and then also continuing them with autonomous stations. And then one part is about satellite calibration and validation. So it's about like snow microstructure, roughness, and so on, to really have to also be able to improve the products for surface mass balance from satellites. And then there are contributions more from geophysics, from geospace to geomagnetism, and along the route. And finally, we would like to place a network of these stations for ice, snow, air temperature, and accumulation, which will then run into the IPY. How is it aligned with Antarctica InSync? It's basically a core part then for theme 7 and theme 3, and it's connected in the surface mass balance working group. And so how can you get involved? So the core program, basically the 3 trucks with 9 scientists, is quite firm already. But if we find more funding, or if you help us to find more funding, it's possible to bring in another Arctic truck. This would then open room for another for more science and also more payload and ideas. The other possibility is that you can replicate the measurement program on your own operation sector. That's something, a discussion we're having with Australia in the moment. It's also possible to use the way back. So basically we're driving from Neumayer to Maria Zucchelli, and the trucks have to return back in the next season. So there's opportunity to book the trucks on the way back to do more science. And then, I mean, all the measurement protocols and what we are doing and so on, this is something we are developing together with the working group. So there's, of course, possibilities to contribute. And also, if you have like devices we can put on the trucks without having without a big weight or needing lots of pucks, you're also very welcome to contact us. So yeah, you can contact me under the email written here, and it would be very welcome to continue on this and to really integrate everything we can on this exciting traverse.
Thank you really much, Tom. Our next speaker is Stephanie R., who will present the plan for Polarstern.
Yes, thank you, Diego. Yes, so Polarstern will be within the frame of Antarctica InSync spend 1 whole year in the Southern Ocean with a focus on the Weddell Sea, where we are really happy that we can have her down there for the whole year, really covering summer through autumn and winter into spring, and then the upcoming summer again, which allows us then also to really look into the full seasonal cycle of properties and processes within the Weddell Sea, by also complementing that with a huge bunch of autonomous platforms that will be deployed in the beginning of the time that Polarstern will spend down there, to then connect through all these different legs. We are happy that we will have through all of these 5 legs that you can also see here in the map lined out, that we will have a core program for all maritime themes within Antarctica InSync, meaning like all themes except for the ice sheet theme will be represented on board with our science, with our conducted science. And the science itself is already aligned along the lines of the science plan. So therefore, there is already this really strong connection to Antarctica InSync. However, we are also in the lucky position that we have already kind of a pre-expedition to this core phase of Polarstern in the year 27, 28 to 28, 29. But we will have already before the Krilbis cruise led by Bettina Meyer from February to March 2027. Which will focus on the area around the Antarctic Peninsula. And then, as mentioned before, we will have then these 5 legs that are here marked in these different colors, going into these different areas. You can see on the left-hand side the cruise leaders for all of these 5 different legs. For leg 1 to 3, those are legs and proposals that are already accepted. For leg 4 and 5, those are proposals that are currently submitted. However, we are kind of like hopeful and positive that this will also all get really well together. Just like one last reminder, we are in the lucky position that for leg 1, 2, and 3, Polarstern will go regularly on the prime meridian back and forth. So this is a really nice opportunity for repeated measurements. And in an ideal case, other nations can also complement that by additional transects also here along the prime meridian, which would be a great opportunity to really have the full benefit of Antarctica InSync and having several infrastructures in the same area. And if there's like any further questions, don't hesitate to reach out to either me or like Salman for anything around the Polarstern planning. Thank you.
Thank you really much, Steffi. Our next speaker is Anna Velin, who will present the initiative Pulse of the Weddell Sea.
Thank you very much. So I'll try to be fast. We have 2 upcoming Swedish contributions, 2 expeditions to Antarctica InSync, and the contact person for collaboration and possible berth space and so on is Åsa Lindgren at the Swedish Polar Research Secretariat. The first one is called The Pulse of the Weddell Sea, and the second one is called IQ 2300, and you can find more information about them on these web pages. Next slide, please. So the Pulse of the Weddell Sea is focused on the functioning and significance of the Weddell Sea on climate and ecosystems, and the cruise leader is Seb Swart. Next slide. And it will take place from the Agulhas 2 in November 2027. The expedition is 5 weeks and it departs from Cape Town. Next slide. One IQ 2300 is focused on sea level rise. So this includes also a large terrestrial and glaciology components, but the marine part is focused on the Reser Larsen ice shelves, and I'm cruise leader for that. Next slide. So we have quite complicated plans. We have the big AUV that will go, is being delivered next year, and it will go in under the ice shelves and shipborne observations while the AUV is serving. And we have moorings, and we also have an on ice program with hot water drilling. Next slide, please. So the ship is going to be the Nosfera. Tentatively, it's mid-January to mid-March 2028, 8 weeks roughly, of which 5 weeks are spent in Seal Bay, which is a triangular shaped part of the continental shelf there. So in addition to AV Ron 2 that will be delivered, we have moorings, we will have CTDs, ship ADCPs, towed arrays for super high resolution data, and there will be some sea ice work, both sea ice stations and RAN 2 again. There will also be marine geology package, multibeam from the ship and multibeam from RAN, and some sediment cores. That happens in 2028. And then in 2029, we have the on ice component with the hot water drilling, which is operated by BAS. And then we have some moorings through the ice, and we have an ROV that will be lowered into the cavity through that hole. And then this whole thing will be followed up in 2030 with a new AUV expedition that will be shorter, and it's off the Antarctica InSync. But the purpose of that is to look at how the ice base has changed. And also we think it's very nice. The Nosfera is the Ukrainian vessel, and the flag is up there, and RAN is the Swedish AUV. So we think it will be very nice pictures with the Ukrainian and the Swedish flag going. And that's all from us, I think.
Thank you really much, Anna, for the nice overview of the expedition. Our next talk, it will be Klaus Meiners, who will present the RV Nujina.
Yeah, hi everyone. As Susan already mentioned, the Australian Antarctic Program is planning an East Antarctic Marginal Ice Zone voyage, or EAMIS. This is a 60-day voyage covering August-September 2028, and it will go in the 110 to 130 degree east sector, and it will be on board RSV Nujina. You see that on that map, the red square is our target area. As many of the other voyages, this will be a multidisciplinary voyage, primarily to study coupled ice-ocean atmosphere system processes and also marginal ice zone early season biogeochemical and ecosystem processes. So we will have underway CTD transects, including buoy float deployments to link that really with satellite remote sensing measurements. We have a small number of ice stations, but we will primarily operate in the marginal ice zone, which in this area is in deep water, so we won't be on the shelf. We have work packages on atmosphere. This is led, I just mentioned a few names, so if you want to get in contact, please contact these names if you know them. Otherwise, you can contact me. The atmosphere project is looking at clouds, aerosols, precipitation, and is led by Simon Alexander. We have an ice physics team. This is led by Johannes Lohse to link that into remote sensing, and Rob Messam. There will be also wave ice interaction process studies, and lots on ice physics there. We have an oceanography team led by Laura Heraz Borrugera, also by Annie Foppert and by Amelie Meyer. And that is CTD transects, maybe some limited CPI moorings. We don't have really capacity for larger moorings. And we have an ecosystem project focusing on krill and ice-covered ecosystem primary production, which is led by So Kawaguchi from AAD and myself. And we have a biogeochemistry team led by Philip Boyd and by Pauline Latour. And we also do some surface paleo sampling, custom coring and multi-corers, and that is led by Taryn Noble. We just squeezed for birth at the moment, so that is TBC and limited. But please get in touch with any of these work package leads or directly with myself. Thank you.
Okay, Klaus, thank you really much for your presentation. Our next speaker is Pier Paolo Falco, who will present Laura Bassi.
So I'm going to present the activity of the Laura Bassi in the Ross Sea. That is the main area where we are carrying out research. We haven't so much detail as other colleagues before presented because our activities are not scheduled yet because we haven't project approved so far, but a call will be published very soon, and there will be 3-year programs for research in the Ross Sea and even in areas adjacent to the Ross Sea that can be, of course, of interest for InSync. And even in the call, there will be some indication about the possibility and the opportunity to link our project to InSync. So there is, I think, a good effort from the Italian community to try to be involved in all the Italian community. So from geophysics to oceanography to marine chemistry to biology in InSync. So the classical period of our activity goes from December to February, even sometimes early March. By tradition, we are very keen to host international and scientists. So it would be a real pleasure to have someone coming from other countries joining our cruises. And of course, so far, our programs will be project will be multidisciplinary, so many activities can be thought. And of course, if you need more information, the main contact is Professor Giorgio Budilon, who is the Vice President of the Italian program for Antarctic research. So please contact him to have information about the procedure to be on board and to join our next expedition for the next years. Thank you very much.
Thank you really much, Pier Paolo. Our next talk will be, I will present the commitment from our colleagues from Argentina to the time zone. They cannot participate today, but they're going to be tomorrow. So they told me to inform that they plan every year's campaign to the Antarctic Peninsula on board of the icebreaker Almirante Iriza. This icebreaker operate between December and March, and they have multiple laboratories on board. And for the Antarctica InSync community, Argentina will open 2 berths, depending of the different projects as an initiative. Next slide, please. Here you can see in the map what is the normally track of the Almirante Izar, because this vessel as well supply different stations that Argentina coordinate. In the map, you can see red dots. Those correspond to 7 permanent research stations allocated in the Antarctic Peninsula. And the green one represent seasonal station and summer camps that the scientific community can access through the Marambio station. Next slide, please. The important message that our Argentina colleagues mentioned to express today is that, especially in the stations who operate the whole year, they have a scientist permanently there. So in case of different working groups or scientific teams would like to contact them to take measurements, please go to the Antarctica InSync webpage and contact the Argentinian National Committee. Thank you really much. Continue with the talks. Our next talk will be Antonio Quesada, who will present the initiative from Spain.
Thank you very much, Diego. This is going to be a very short presentation, and I will explain you what do we have for InSync. First of all, I would like to tell you that we don't have an InSync program itself, but we are always open in the Spanish program to accommodate and to host different scientists from different areas in the world, from different purposes. In this case, I really would like to show you what do we have. We have 2 stations in land, and they are open for everyone. And one is Gabriel de Castilla station that is in a volcano in Deception Island, and this will be accepting remote access for science in different kind of procedures, and we are open to do all the science there in remote access. And in Juan Carlos I station, Livingstone Island, this is in the South Shetland area, and this is a larger one, 51, and we have about 8 berths for people from InSync coming with us. Next slide, please. And these are our 3 vessels that we are normally bringing to Antarctica. This is now is Hesperides at the background, and they will have 6 berths for InSync projects. Then we have next, please. Then we have I don't have the lettering. Okay, here we have the Odon de Buen. This is a brand new oceanographic vessel, and this will have also 6 berths available for InSync projects. It's more or less the same size. And then the last one is Sarmiento Gamboa that we have in the front, and this is again it will have some availability of berths for InSync. Can I have the next one, please? So again, 6 berths. So in total, we will have about 20 berths for experiments related with InSync during next years. Please, can we have the next one? These are the areas that we will be operating in the years, and something that is for us important is that these are multidisciplinary projects. So at the same cruise, we have different projects, and all people, our guests, can associate to the project that we are having, or they can run their own projects. So those are the regions that we are going to be exploring during those years, 27, 28, and 29. And something important that is that we are calling very frequently to the land. So it's, if you are thinking about doing some experiments, just using the coastal areas and the interaction with the open sea ice or the open sea, it would be very good for us because we are very frequently calling to the land. So this is available for everyone, and if you have any question, just please contact us at the Spanish Polar Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio, for the talk. Our next talk, I invite Luis Magnier to present the TARA initiative.
It seems like Luis is not here. So maybe Leah, if you could jump in.
Sure. Yeah, I saw that Luis was there a little bit earlier, but now he's not there anymore. So I will present on behalf of Alessandro Tagliabue that could not join today, but will be presenting tomorrow, and Luis as well. So if you have any question, please don't hesitate to contact Alessandro or Romain. Their address were written on the slide, but they have disappeared. But I guess once you have the slide, you can click on them. So TARA is planning also 2 summers expedition around Antarctica, and the goal is to divide it into 3 legs for each summer, so 6 legs in total. So it will start, so it will be the summer of 29 and the summer of 2030, focusing on the continental shelf region. So you can see an approximate cruise track for those 2 summers, with rotation of the crew in different bases. So the goal is to focus on oceanography, biogeochemistry, photophysiology, imaging, and genomics, and to have measurements for all of that. But we are, of course, very open to collaborate. We just started planning those cruises, so feel free to reach out to any of us. We're also involved in different working groups. So the TARA planning, we're involved in working groups, so the carbon cycle, the M&Ms working group, and especially the MISO working group that Luis is a part of. So please don't hesitate also to reach out. But we're open to more working groups. So for now, it's only 3, but it could be a lot more. And we are very happy to help also with the other fieldwork needs. So as the other have presented, if you have ideas and if we can collect measurements, it will be a lot of measurements. So if they can be used for your projects, we'll be very happy, and we'll be very happy to engage with the basis, as this will be a coastal work. So we are creating our consortium. So for now, we have about 16 people in the consortium across 6 different nations, and we're growing to develop this project. So if you want to know more about it, contact me, contact Alessandro, or contact Romain, and also please discuss it in your working groups if you think there would be interesting things that we could do on board, or more measurements that we could take on board that could be useful for you, because it's a sailboat, so berths are also limited. Thank you very much, and I hope I did justice to Luis's presentation.
You did perfect, Leah. I'm sorry, I just had the sound and video privilege. Thanks a lot, Leah.
Great, thanks, Luis.
Thank you, guys. Okay. Our last talk today about the different campaigns and initiatives will be about airplanes, and for that I invite Fausto Ferraccioli.
Perfect. Okay, so very quickly, I'm going to go through opportunities of synergies in international airborne geophysics for InSync. Well, firstly, I should mention that the airborne component fits in particularly well, as can be seen here in this slide in theme 3, in particular to look at ice shells and ice sheets, but also look at the bedrock that lies beneath the ice sheets and try and determine the depth, for example, of the cavity between ice shells. One synergy that I believe could be particularly important for InSync is with the RINGS community, which is a coordinated international effort to image the bedrock along the inshore and offshore regions of the grounding zone at pan-Antarctic scale. And I believe probably the biggest opportunity for synergy might come from the offshore ring. So far, most efforts have been on the grounded part of the ice sheet. But I also believe there may be opportunities for synergies with traverses for the inshore part. As you can see on the right-hand side, we have an example of an aircraft. With radar, magnetic, and gravity surveys, you can get a picture of what lies beneath the ice sheet. And this is a compilation that was made as part of rings of all the different international platforms that are available out there. These go from fixed wing to helicopter to drone systems. So there's a whole portfolio really of platforms that one could potentially use as part of InSync. So just to remind ourselves of what might be the main objectives of airborne exploration, these include subglacial topography, continental shelf bathymetry, geological boundary conditions, geothermal heat flux, and subglacial hydrology. I want to give you one example from the Italian Antarctic program. This is a funded contribution that will fly in 27-28, which will experiment at Dome C the use of a radiometer to try and image for the first time the thermal structure of the ice sheet and the base of the ice sheet. And this shows you the location. If this type of novel equipment is successful, this could be deployed as part of InSync also in other parts of the continent. And I want to finish in the last few seconds with the huge opportunities that could be offered by UAVs. We heard today already maybe experimental deployments from traverses, but UAVs could also be deployed from ships as well. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you really much also for that nice talk. And continue with the next steps after this meeting, I invite Alex to present and say some words.
Yeah, first of all, thanks everyone for sticking around, and sorry for running slightly over time. But you can see it's a complex task that we had here today. But I think it's really fantastic to see all this coming together, all these expeditions, all these campaigns. So congratulations to everyone for all the successes already. And we are very much looking forward to what is to come. And that brings me to also the next steps. Please make sure that you regularly exchange within your themes, that you update your theme leads, because it's important to report back and collect all this information. And also please consider the cross theme and within theme collaborations, also by additioning maybe additional working groups or leveraging the existing working groups and contributing to them. Please also feel free to regularly share updates also from a national side that also includes the infrastructure, the expedition commitments, also maybe projects that you have. Please send them to the coordination office so that we can keep everyone informed. And then maybe also important to note what is coming next. So we have major conferences coming up. So one of them is the SCAR Open Science Conference, where we have multiple discussion. We also have a meeting of the Antarctica InSync action group within SCAR, led by Petra Heil and Inga Beck. And there will be also a meeting. There will be an Antarctica InSync town hall. There will be numerous other Antarctica InSync events. So please check this QR code to stay informed if you are joining the SCAR Open Science Conference. And then, of course, very importantly, last to note is, and to remind everyone, that the Antarctica InSync implementation workshop will take place in November in Frascati. And we are looking forward to welcome you all there. The registration will open soon. So please keep an eye on this in the newsletter and in all the channels that we have within InSync. With this, I would like to thank everyone again for this fantastic webinar today. We will have another follow-up webinar tomorrow at a different time to have all time zones covered. With this, on behalf of everyone and the coordination, thank you very much. And we hope to see you soon in one or the other occasion. Thank you.
Thank you to join us. And please don't forget to follow us in our LinkedIn account, our newsletter, and our new Instagram channel.